All right, so this past weekend was my very first market and I did over $2,000 in sales. I think markets are actually super polarizing between people who say they're worth it versus people who say it's not. The term worth it, I would say, is a very loose term because I just said that I did $2,000 in sales. And I would think that most people would say, that's worth it. But out of that $2,000 in sales, is that actually profit? Is even half of that profit? It's not high enough. All right, well, I learned a lot on my very first market. So I figured I would break all this down into segments so that if you out there are considering a market, by the end of this video, you'll know if it's actually worth it or not, and what the term worth it really means for you. All right, 10 things that you should know before you do your market, or whatever I ended up naming this video. Okay, number one, how to take payment. So obviously if you're gonna be selling stuff, you need to be able to take payment. I brought $100 worth of change in cash. That was 5 10s and 10 5s, so I would do it again. I would just bring 10 5s, 50 bucks. There's a lot more people with cash than I thought, and everybody had 20s, which was really nice because my average thing was $25. I also had Venmo and PayPal. I had QR codes for those, and I printed those off with my Rollo heat printer, and then I stuck those to pieces of wood. I had 5 of those total, and that made the entire process so easy. You're gonna have a bunch of different camps of people and how they pay for things, because like $900 of my sales were just done on Venmo. Not a single person used PayPal, and the people that used Venmo, they'd be like, hey, how much do I owe you? And I'd be like, $45. I would turn and be helping somebody else. They'd be like, did it hit your account? I'd look at my phone, it was there, and I was like, you're good to go. It was as simple as that. Now, the other camp of people either are going to have cash or they're going to pay with credit card. I set up a Square account, and my dumb butt thought that they would just send me the little card reader for free in the mail in like a few days. Unfortunately, it takes 7 to 10 days to get to you, so it still hasn't even shown up to my house yet. So I had to manually input the credit cards, which is a little bit stressful because some people just don't know what their zip code is. So we had 12 people that we needed to manually input their credit card. I did cash, Venmo, PayPal, and credit card. Venmo by far was the biggest one, and then I did take one check, but that was only from somebody that I trust. Be careful with checks. All right, number 2, how to set up your booth. So this is something that I would have not cared about. The event that I was at, specifically, you had to have a 10 by 10 white tent. I went out and purchased a tent for it from Walmart. It's the cheapest tent that they had, and it broke on me because it was the cheapest tent that they had. So we had a white tent. We used 3 tables. We set those up in a U pattern in order to set up all of our stuff. We used risers in order to give everything a little bit of depth and differentiate things. My helper, which I'll get into in a little bit, I gave them $100 to purchase decorations and stuff because if it was just me, I would have just blank tables and everything flat and products on there. But at the very end of the day, I realized, whoa, that would have been horrible and I wouldn't have nearly the sales that I had. And a large part of that, I think, was due to decorations. So I would say the biggest thing that I learned as far as how to set up your booth is make sure that you have everything very well labeled, very identifiable, and somebody can easily see how much things are, because most people don't want to talk to you. Okay, so number 3, by far the most annoying part of markets for me, and I would assume a lot of other people, is set up and tear down. Make sure that you have a plan when it concerns setting up and tearing down things. The setup itself took us about an hour and a half. The tear down took about an hour. That is very annoying. It's very tiring. I think that's going to be a standard across the board wherever you go. But if you're looking into doing a market, I would do a lot of research into what type of market that is. Is it outside? Do you have to bring your own tent? Do you have to bring your own tent weights? If it rains, do you get your money back? Are they pushing it to a different day? These are all questions that you should be asking because they're very important. For me, if it was to rain on that Saturday, it was going to be pushed to Sunday. If it rained on that Sunday, we weren't going to have it, and I was not going to be getting my $220 deposit back for that day. It's a risk running a market, and you're hoping that that event is going to go off without a hitch, that there are a ton of people coming to that event, and that the coordination of the event overall is going to be something that is going to make you money as a vendor. How much do you bring of the stuff that you're trying to either give out or sell? For me, that was extremely stressful. I had done an entire series on this channel where I did a project every single day. All of my subscribers picked the top 5 things that should be at the market, and then I figured I would just have 10 items total. I ended up with 9. 2 of those things, my grill scrapers that I was making, completely destroyed on the CNC, and then my bow and arrows, I ran out of time. I just didn't have time to make them the way that they should be made, and since it's a kid's toy, I really wanted to make sure that they were done right, and they just didn't end up making it to the market. So how much of different things did I myself bring? Let's just go down the list. Salt cellars. These things I thought were going to sell out immediately. I made 40 of them. One of them, a bird pooped on it because the oil was soaking in outside, and I didn't even think about that, but if a bird poops on your product, just throw that product away. Don't wipe it off and sell it. Don't be that person. That's disgusting. I brought 39 of them, 10 sold. The coffee scoops, I had a bit break. I was cutting out 76 of them. I cut out 56. I don't even know why the bit broke. It cut out the other ones just fine. These were done in cherry. A lot of the wood that I used was cherry in order to save a lot of money because it looks nice after it's oiled, and it's like 4 times cheaper than walnut. So the coffee scoops, I brought 56 of them. I sold 26 of them for $10 a piece. The triple box, I made 3 of those out of ash. I did not sell a single one. I think I was selling them for $40 a piece. Didn't sell a single one. Turkey calls, that was from a very past video. I brought 12 of them. I didn't sell a single one. Grill scrapers. I sell these things locally. I put them in a store and they immediately text me and they're like, hey, they all sold out. We need more grill scrapers. I knew that these grill scrapers were all going to sell out that day. I brought 32 of them and I only sold 11. And the reason is people kept on seeing them, and the quotes that I had on them, I guess they didn't like, because I had easily a dozen people look at me and be like, do you have these that are blank? And I didn't bring any blank ones, which was a huge fault of my own. Brought 32, sold 11, those were $20 a piece. The whiskey smokers. I almost burnt down my shop making these whiskey smokers. You should always be washing your CNC, I get it. I was outside blowing leaves, and the process is so loud that after I turned off the blower, I was like, oh no, something must be wrong. I came in, the router was smoking, the CNC of course was still doing its job, I was still trying to cut. The bit itself was bent. It could have been a horrible situation. Thankfully I caught it in time, and then I ended up buying a new router, buying a new bit, and then keep on chugging along. But with that I had to dramatically change up the design of my whiskey smokers, and I ended up just kind of engraving on it white oak whiskey smoker. And on Instagram later, I posted a poll, hey, which design do you like more? And everybody loved the new design way better. Those sold out first in the market, and then I had some of the new design that were blank that didn't have any engraving. Those sold out. The old design sold out. I brought 35. I sold 35, and that was only because of my helper, Trish. I'll talk about helpers later in this video. So that's $700 in sales just from whiskey smokers. The new design, I could probably cut out 50 of those in the course of 3 hours. You can do the new design with the old files that are all listed down in my Etsy below. Red bow knives. I brought 29 of them and I sold 16 of them for $25 a piece. I also had those red bow knives linked up with my serving boards tied together. So the serving boards were $40, the red bow knives were $25, but if you brought them together it was $60. A lot of people went for that. Speaking of serving boards, I made 40 of them because I thought they were going to be a huge seller. Some of them engraved, some of them not engraved. The engraved ones just said thankful at the bottom. People really didn't care, honestly. They just kind of grabbed whatever was available. I only sold 7 of them, and that is at $40 a piece. Last but not least, trivets. I brought these because I really like the design myself, but I was just curious if people would buy them. I brought 13 of them, and I sold 7 of them, which I thought was really great. I'll go into, at the very end, how I would do my products if I did this again, and if I would do it again. All right, so number 5 is bring a Trish. And up until this point, I've been talking about my helper. Trish is my helper. Trish is somebody who can sell anything. She's somebody, when people first meet her, they just automatically love Trish. And I knew that bringing Trish was going to be a pivotal thing in my market itself. We were at the very end of the day, there were 5 whiskey smokers left, and Trish looked at me and said, hey, it's my goal to sell all 5 of those. Literally, like 2 minutes later, a woman walked up, and Trish sold all 5 of them to her. And I'm not that person. I'm the kind of person who's like, hey, if you want my stuff, it's over here, just shoot me a thing on Venmo. Some person came up and said, oh, Grandma loves whiskey. And she was like, well, Grandma is about to get a whiskey smoker. If you are a maker and you have that personality, you are just set. I'm not. Right now, it might seem like I have that personality, and it's because I'm alone in my wood shop talking to a camera. The second that people show up, I freeze. Speaking of people showing up, I had 4 sets of my subscribers show up. First, James, thank you very much. You were the first person to show up, and that kind of blew my mind. I was like, one showed up. That's great. Next, Mike. Unfortunately, Mike, I didn't get a picture, so I'm going to go on to thispersondoesnotexist.com. And this is not Mike, but to everybody out there now, you have a version of Mike in your mind. I can't express how sorry I am I didn't get a picture with you. Yeah, thank you for showing up, Mike. That was very cool. Jeff and his family drove 3 hours to come and see me. Thank you. The next people that showed up were like, hey, we drove 2 hours. And I was like, you just missed it by an hour. And they're like, oh, no. We actually drove 4 hours, trying to lie and then get the farthest distance and beat Jeff. But Jimmy and Julie almost beat him. Thank you very much for driving 2 hours to come and see me. From the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. Thank y'all very much for showing up. 6, have free stuff. Free stickers and candy and dog bones, that kind of stuff. All of that was very, very cheap. The free stickers cost me about a penny a piece. I made these little stickers, and yes, this is printing off in real time. That is how fast it is. I printed off 500 stickers. We probably gave away like 200 or 300 stickers that day, and that was a huge reason to get people talking. We probably saw like 100 dogs that day. A lot of these dogs are insanely slow eaters, so then the owner was kind of forced standing there, so they might as well talk to us and might as well buy some of our stuff. And then lastly, I just had a huge bowl filled with candy. That was great for kids. Without those free things, I think that it would have been a little bit more difficult to bring people into my booth. So I would definitely say bring some free stuff. Those 500 stickers cost me like $5 to print off. It was absolutely nothing, and everybody was rocking the stickers. It was very cool. Number 7, think about food, power, bathrooms, drinks, that kind of stuff. The event itself was running from 10 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Setup started at 7 o'clock, and I didn't get home until 7 o'clock. So I was there for 12 hours. That means that we had to figure out something for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The power, we had a power block that was charging my phone because my phone was needed in order to be able to take payments that day. So make sure that you're able to keep things charged up the way that they need to be. All right, 8, things that I wish that I wouldn't have done. Hindsight's 2020. This was my very first booth. I really wanted to make sure that I had way too much stuff rather than not enough. I wish that I wouldn't have made as many different types of product as possible, and I wish I would have made less. But I don't know that until I know that, right? Before it, I was constantly thinking I need to be able to make more. The more stuff that you make, the more stuff that you actually have to carry to your booth. I had one of those gorilla carts, and that was great, but like I was done. The setup and teardown of these things suck. Like there's zero fun. And I wish that I wouldn't have brought as much stuff. 9, how much did I really make? So I did $2,015 in sales, but out of that $2,015, what is actual profit? So if we really look into it, that $2,015, if we just look at the products that sold and the cost associated with making those things as far as material cost goes, the material cost was $289. So off of the $2,015, that leaves us with $1,726. Now the market itself, in order for me just to be there, for me to have the right to be there, it was $220 for my booth space. That itself brings the total down to $1,506. Next, I had to go out and purchase a tent because I didn't have a white tent. I gave Trish $100 for decorations to make sure that everything looked really nice. She herself already had the chairs and the tables. That alone would have cost another $300, but I didn't have to pay for that, so I'm not keeping that in the tally. And then I paid Trish $100, which is like the cheapest labor that I could ever find, especially for how good she is at her job. She adamantly refused the $100, just so everybody out there knows. Thank you, Trish, for doing that for $8 an hour. All of that, I'll just say, was $300 off of the $1,506, which brings us down to $1,206. That is profit in my pocket after the day. Which brings me into point 9.5. How much did other vendors make? All right, I just want to briefly interject right here and say that I just got a very long email from the person that threw this event, and she sent a ton of awesome information that honestly would make this video like another 15 minutes long. So I'm going to make a separate video on that, really focusing on the backside of things and other vendors as well. So next to me there is a woman who was selling candles, and then one of my subscribers sent me a ton of details about a market that he did the week before I actually did my market. Let's go over those really quick. I asked her what she did in sales, and she said between $500 and $600. And I asked her if that was a good or bad day for her. She said that was an incredible day. She was selling just candles and soaps. The average sale price was $9. I asked her how much product she actually brought, and she said around $1,000 worth of product. So if you're out there and you make candles and you're wondering about that, hopefully that'll shed a little bit of insight into the sales that she did for the day. Now, my subscriber, you can see right here, he was selling signage, a bunch of CNC type of stuff. He said overall he was kind of bummed because at the end of the day he made about $200 off of everything. I asked how much stuff he ended up bringing. He said he probably brought around 50 items and sold less than 10. Said the process was pretty disappointing, but overall he would consider doing it again, and a lot of it is just like what's going to sell and where. And I think that's a really, really good point to bring up, because I thought that those salt cellars were just going to run out of the door. When I was first selling them, I had them listed for $20. I probably had 15 people show up and be like, oh, I love this, how much is this? And I said $20, and they'd be like, oh, we'll circle back. And with that, after the first few people, I was like, we've got to drop that down to $15. And we dropped it down to $15, but like I said, I only ended up selling 10 of those things. You know, the $150 of sales that I made off of that covered all the materials that I used in order to make those things. And I genuinely do believe at this next little pop-up shop inside of a store, those salt cellars are going to be my best sellers for the day. But who knows? Sometimes you can pour a lot of effort into an area and you think that something's going to sell, and then it just doesn't. Number 10, would I do this again? And the answer is yes. Yes, I would. And I think that you realistically need to figure out what is success for you and what you're trying to do. I think that if somebody's in high school and has access to a CNC machine and has the time to do things, and they go out and make $300, that is a massive success. I think if somebody my age goes and makes $300, I'm never doing that again. And I think if somebody is retired and is just looking for something to do on the weekends and go out and just be around other people and show off the things that they make, doesn't really matter if they make a ton of money or not, I think making $300 worth of sales is very worth it. I think it really depends on what is motivating you. My wife and child got to stop by for a little while. They were there for like an hour, and having a little baby at the market really brought people in, honestly. And I mean, like, just the day overall was a ton of fun. Like I said, subscribers came out. I had a ton of friends that I haven't seen in a very long time pop up out of nowhere, and because of that market, it provided a place and a reason for people to come. The overall vibe was incredible. There was live music, there was like pie eating contests and stuff. Like, it was a ton of fun. That entire day is one of those things that I will remember for the rest of my life. I will forget how many things that I sold. I will forget the amount of money that it generated, but I will remember that event and that day. Maybe you're somebody out there and you've never done anything like this before, and you just want to see if the things that you're making are worth any kind of money. Do not base your value as an individual off of people being able to buy stuff. The reason that I did $2,000 in sales, which might be a lot for some of y'all, might be not a ton for some of y'all, is because I had Trish. I wouldn't have sold nearly half as much stuff. It's the same stuff, it provides the same value, but her ability to sell things dramatically changed how the day looked as far as money is concerned. So would I do it again? Yes. Like I said, next weekend I'm actually going to be doing a pop-up shop. Very pumped about that, but these markets itself, I originally signed up for a holiday market that's next month. I'm not doing that market, and it's because Trish isn't available to be there, and I don't want to go and do all that by myself. But I am looking forward to the spring market and the fall market of next year. Figuring out what makes it worth it from you at the very start and setting your expectations is a very good idea. And other people who have done markets before and you think that they're a bust, maybe they are in your area. Because to a lot of the people that show up to the events in my area, they do have disposable income. And that's something that you need to be aware of for your area. Are people actually going to be buying this stuff? Is it easier for you just to put stuff on Etsy? That grill scraper that I sold for $20, maybe you should just be selling it for $30 on Etsy, you know? I think that there's a ton of stuff that goes into it, and no one person is just going to be able to say, yes, markets are worth it, or no, markets are not worth it. But I do think that you should try it out for yourself, because it is a ton of fun, especially seeing the things that you've slaved over in your shop and watching people smile and being like, oh, that's a really good idea. I like this a whole lot. But do not let those other people's opinions on what you make determine your worth. You are worth so much more than somebody else's 30-second view at what you've done. For some of y'all that have already written down in the comments how I should do my green screen differently, I wanted it this way. Nothing in my shop is perfect, and my green screen is not either. And if you've got a CNC and you've seen some of these projects that you would like to be able to sell yourself, I have them linked down in my Etsy down below. And I'm going to be doing another mini-series before the end of the year, the 12 Days of Makemas. And I also even have better giveaways than last time. Super pumped about that, and I hope to see y'all there.